Hey everyone, I hope you all had a great week this week. It's that time where I like to give you a recap of some of the bills that we passed this week to help our veterans, our country, our community. Before that, I do want to talk a little bit about the way that I started my week this week. It was speaking on a panel of a bipartisan group of members of Congress who are committed to strengthening our country's relationship with Israel. As many of you may know, I decided to volunteer alongside the IDF because of, after I finished my time in the Army and I saw all of those common values that we share with Israel: freedom, democracy, a mutual respect for all people, just to name a few. I have had a very deep admiration for the IDF, and as a member of the Foreign Affairs Committee and the subcommittees of Middle East and North Africa and terrorism and non-proliferation, those are my subcommittees on foreign affairs, working to combat terror and nation-state threats such as Hamas and Iran, it really encompasses a great deal of my work. And the truth is that the best path to a stable and secure Middle East is by supporting our greatest ally there in the Middle East, and that's Israel. And that's why I've teamed up with my Democrat colleague from Florida, Stephanie Murphy. We introduced a great bill that will strengthen our partnership between Israel and the United States to help Israel defend herself as well. Our bill, the Deterring and Defeating Rocket and Missile Threats to Israel Act, it makes a very strong statement that we will always work with Israel to promote peace on global security through a joint missile defense programs. Also, on the national security front, we passed a bill this week to combat criminal financial networks. Something that I know is concerning to many people in our district has been the worsening opioid crisis, and that has been fueled in great part by transnational criminal organizations who peddle narcotics. They peddle sex slaves across our borders. This has devastated many of our communities and has put major strain on our law enforcement agencies. Across the board, there's numerous agencies that have been working on this. Unfortunately, their criminal methods have grown larger and more complex, using illicit businesses, cybercrime, through a worldwide financial networks. This is posing an increasingly serious threat to our national security interests. So the bottom line is that for far too long, we've lacked an effective strategy in countering them. So this week, we passed a bill requiring the administration to develop some very clear national strategy and security guidelines to combat these financial criminal networks. Finally, we're addressing another issue that is absolutely critical, and that is transparency, especially for our veterans. This was an exceptional week as I had many visitors in Washington from AMVETS and the IAVA and the VFW and other veteran organizations. This might have been my busiest week ever in terms of visiting veteran organizations here in Washington. So I had a lot of great conversations on a number of incredible issues to, combating veteran suicide, work that we need to do within the VA, making sure that we bring an end to sequestration and that our service members on the battlefield have the tools that they need to go out there and come home to us. So as you know, I've dedicated a lot of my time in Congress to increasing transparency also across government, which is one of the reasons that I've decided to open up an office in the West Palm Beach VA hospital so that we can better understand what specific issues our veterans are facing and what we can do to improve their treatment there within the VA. This week, we passed a bill called the Whistleblower Protection Extension Act, which extends and strengthens the Whistleblower Ombudsman Program. This program, it improves whistleblower protections and it remedies for retaliation across the federal government, including at the VA, but certainly not just for veterans, in a number of other places as well. This is very critical to pinpointing and eliminating some of the waste, the fraud, the abuse, those three words that we unfortunately so often have to use, that drain your taxpayer dollars without any benefit whatsoever. We've made it very clear in a bipartisan way that whistleblowers are absolutely essential in making our federal agencies more efficient and preventing unethical and illegal practices. This is a great move in strengthening the transparency and accountability of our federal government. Finally, last point that I would like to speak about today, one of the biggest things that we've been working on behind the scenes this week are various bills, a number of bills to address what occurred in Parkland. This week's very specifically a bill to address address school safety called the Stop School Violence Act. And I said a number of other things that I've been working on as an individual, and I know other members of Congress are working on, things that they're working on over there in the Senate. I know in the Senate right now they're working on a bill to merge two things, and that's ending all loopholes within the background check system as it relates to purchasing a firearm, and in addition raising the age for which firearm purchases, and that was a request by President Trump at a meeting that I had just over a week ago over at the White House, and he made that very specific request to get him that bill. So senators are working on that bill. Here in the House, we're working on a few other things. So I think we can all agree that Republicans, Democrats, Independents, that there is very little faith in the system right now to identify the threats successfully and to intervene before violence happens. There have been some very, very proven failures within this infrastructure, and it's resulted in some very tragic events. And that's exactly what this bill addresses. Specifically, it improves resources to train students, teachers, school officials, local law enforcement on how to identify and intervene early when signs of violence arise at schools. It also creates a coordinated reporting system, and it really addresses a lot of the gaps at the FBI to create school threat assessment programs that will help to prevent, hopefully help to prevent school shootings before they happen. There's no doubt that our schools should be as safe as I feel every day walking through the halls of Congress. And this bill, it would provide significant improvement in school security. I know that this is not the whole solution by any means. We need to address other issues that will improve safety outside of our schools, at parks, at the pool, at the beach, at a nightclub like we saw in Orlando, or a concert like we saw in Las Vegas. There are a lot of other bills that are going on as we speak, but this bill will be coming to the floor of the House of Representatives very likely at the beginning of next week. But just because this doesn't solve all of the problems doesn't mean that we shouldn't work towards solving one of the problems, one problem at a time. And this is a great move that I'm eager to support, and that I'm very confident will protect our children when they are at school. I'm a father of 3, so this is certainly something that's constantly on my mind as well. I look forward to voting to pass this bill in this next week, and a number of other bills. I will be holding everybody's feet to the fire here in terms of making sure that we can say that we have done everything that we can to say not one more death in a school, not ever, not again, not on our watch. We're not going to let this happen. That is my commitment, and I've said it. We need to say it as 435 members of Congress, as 100 members of the Senate. Our president needs to say it. All members of all of the state legislatures around the country, all of our sheriffs and our police chiefs and our officers, every member of the school board, every parent, every student, we need to come together in that commitment, work together in that commitment, because the truth is there isn't a silver bullet that all of a sudden just brings this to an end. And that's where it does absolutely require the effort and the sustained effort of every single one of us to accomplish that mission. As always, it is an honor to serve you here in Congress, and I look forward to seeing you around the district over this weekend. I wish you all the best.